they would have got 2 hits from me because I'm African American and I'm a female. I'm here because I wanted to make a difference. But how dare you stand next to me in the same uniform and murder somebody? How dare you? You ought to be ashamed of yourself. So why don't we just keep it real? If you're that officer, then know good and well you got a God complex. You're afraid of people that don't look like you. Mama soaked in tears and on her knees, she holds her baby as caution tapes around. She keeps on screaming he was just 19. The man in blue said, I told him to stay down. That doesn't make it right. Shame on you, shame on you. But if we ask the ones we lost what they did so wrong, all they say is I have my hand up, my hoodie on, complying, still dying. I just had my hand up, my hoodie on, no gun was drawn. Still they find a way to make us colors on the ground. That's all they wanna see. So then that's all will be. Good evening, everybody. Good evening. I am like ecstatic about this show. I'm nervous almost. It's some powerhouses in here, and I am honored to be joined by these 3 retired law enforcement officers, or if you want to say former law enforcement officers. Between, I think, all of us, it is over 50 years of experience on this panel. And I love it because you have yin and yang. You have 2 female officers, you have 2 males. I'm just ecstatic. So before I go on, I got to introduce my beautiful co-host. And I want to shout out to my Eastern Star sisters. I'm traveling east. And what's up to my Masonic brothers? First, I would like to introduce Miss Heidi Nichols.
Hello. We are about to have a show tonight.
Yes, I'm excited. I'm real excited. Next, we'd like to introduce Miss Rachel Hill. She's saying it right?
Ray.
Rachel!
Hi, everyone.
Hey, gorgeous.
Yes. Hi. How you doing?
Woo, fine. This is about to be a show. You about to love this show.
I'm excited already. Let's get after it, like Chris Cuomo say. Let's get after it.
Yes. And then last but not least, Miss Jocelyn Hurt.
Hey.
Miss Jocelyn.
I'm super excited.
I am too. Oh my gosh. Okay, so how's everybody's week been so far?
Hump day.
Oh, it is hump day.
Hump day.
Yeah, it's good.
Can't complain. Getting through it. I had a stressful work week, but other than that,
it was pretty good.
Yeah.
It's always good when we come back on our Wednesdays and talk about some real stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. We got real stuff to talk about today.
Yes. So let's get it in then. Go ahead, you guys. Introduce our special guest.
So first, I want to introduce Miss LaRhonda Young.
Woo! Powerhouse right there.
Next, I want to introduce Mr. Joe Moseley.
Yeah. Oh, look, I'm excited.
He's coming.
He's coming. Yes. Yes.
And last but certainly not least, Mr. Stan Mason.
Yes.
All right.
Hey, Stan.
Hey,
how's your week been? How's you guys' week been so far? Thus far.
Can't complain. Good. Yeah, it's been good.
Good. It's been real good.
I've been waiting for this, boy. Y'all have no idea. So we're gonna allow our guests to give you a brief kind of summary about who they are and how long they were in law enforcement. So whoever wants to start, hey, we good with it. Look at us.
Be shy. Don't be shy.
Well, I guess I'll go since I have the least amount of time. I served, and I'm the youngest. I
Yes.
Oh, okay. It's going to be one of those days. Okay.
I served for 12 and a half years as a Fort Worth police officer, and I started in patrol. And from patrol, I went to community policing. I did that for about 5 years. From there, I went to do background investigations for applicants who applied for the police department. I was also a fitness trainer and a cultural diversity instructor at the academy. I left there, so y'all can see I'm a little ADHD because I move around a lot. I left there and I went to the gang unit. And while being assigned in the gang unit, I was chosen by ATF to go and work with them on a major case that they were working on, a major drug and gun case that they were working on. And I ended my career in gang and ATF.
Right.
All right, I'll go next. We'll say Daddy for last. Daddy, Mama said send that money. Send that check. I'm
You over
Mason.
21 now, son.
Yeah, I hear you.
You on your own now.
Yeah, I'm a baby. I'm Stan Mason, originally from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I spent 11 years in the United States Air Force as a storm veteran. In 1993, I went to Waco, Texas, where I became a police officer there, served for 25 years. All 25 of my years in patrol, all 25 of my years on night shift by choice. I never sought a promotion, was never interested in promoting. Spent the largest majority of my time living in North Waco, which was one of the neighborhoods that I actually did community policing in. So I was available to the people there.
Okay.
Okay. My name is Joseph John Moseley II. I'm a 30-plus year veteran of the Chicago Police Department. I've been a detective most of my career, sergeant. I was commander of the Chicago Housing Authority Police Department. I'm a survivor of 2 shootings. I've taken bombs out of cars. I worked everything from a single, double, triple, quad homicide, co-authored a couple of books, and I've been an instructor and co-written curriculum for police department, as well as taught on the collegiate level. Let's get it.
Oh, yeah. Hey.
And end of show. Have a wonderful evening.
Ding, 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 ding.
Wow.
We ready for y'all.
Three of you have seen things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got a question for Stan, if I can. I'm sure you get this all the time. Did you work the Koresh, the David Koresh stuff?
That I came out of the academy where all that was going on, but I'm glad you brought that up. A lot of people think that was Waco. That did not happen in Waco, Texas. It's a small town called Elk, Texas, that was outside of Waco, but Waco was the largest city around. So all the communications were done through our dispatch. Of course, all the agents and everybody stayed in downtown Waco, and the press conferences were held in the Waco Convention Center because Elk was a little tiny
Yeah, but they
town.
always like alluded to it happening in Waco.
In Waco,
Media
right.
did. Yeah.
They did, because everything they saw was Waco dispatchers.
Yeah, but if that's
Waco
not true, they
hotels.
shouldn't report it that way.
But that's the media. We all know how that works. Everybody out here knows how that works.
Yeah, because I was scared to go to Waco because I didn't want the Koresh people to get me.
Back in that time, baby, you should have been scared to come to Waco, because in the 90s, we were #1 per capita for violent crime.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Waco is in heart of Central Texas, the heart of Texas. All the drugs coming from the Houston area, going up to Dallas, and then down 20 over to Chicago, guess where it came through? Came through Waco. So Waco
Really?
was shoot 'em up town, yeah.
Wow.
The junction. So you didn't have to worry about the Davidians.
Wow.
That's the least of my worries. Huh?
Oh, yeah.
Last thing to worry about.
That's child's play over there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, I know y'all supposed to be asking us questions, but I just want to ask Joseph something that is so
Please.
Chicago. I mean, all of us on here is like, what was that experience like? I mean, is it really as bad as we see? Like, we see things, but you know how sometimes the media is it really that rough in Chicago?
Short answer, yes.
Like, absolutely.
Here's the deal. The reality is that, as Stan alluded to, we know the power of the media. And let me just start this conversation out with this little idiom. The left wing of the bird and the right wing of the bird are still attached to the same bird. In that vein, our people being played by both sides. I've tracked people that don't even live here. This latest round of looting over this last couple of days, half these people didn't even live here. But who's paying for that? I mean, so, you know, the bigger optic is what the big picture is. And Stan and I've had this conversation at LaRhonda, and I told these two months ago, and it came out bear fruition. I said, watch within a couple of months that Trump is going to become the law and order president. And to a T, he teed it right up almost to the letter. I mean, it was, we called it. The problem is, again, that the visceral connection, the hatred is the biggest dog whistle I've seen. And unfortunately, there's people that are buying into it.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, with that starting us off, let's get into some questions. So I want to start with this question. Where, and anybody can start with the answer, it doesn't matter, it's directed at all of you. Where do you feel like the African-American police officers have gone wrong where it pertains to police brutality?
Let me help you with that.
Okay.
Let's get this. Let's be very clear about some things. Statistically, we're not the ones committing these acts. However, how does it get played? If you look at the statistics, and this really will blow some of your mind, policemen that get killed off duty in soft clothes. Look at who that is. They're majority whites. Black officers get killed off duty because they're identified as the offender.
Okay.
So now let me just throw that at you. I've got the numbers if you ever want to see them. But the other thing is that black officers don't commit these types of atrocities. Are black officers shooting white kids at the same rate that white officers are shooting black kids? I would challenge you on that. No, is the short answer to that. But again, what's the optic? That is not what they're trying to portray. If you look at what's been coming out of Chicago, and this is the real optic I want you to see. Every time you see looting, who do you see? You see blacks. Right. When there's a screenshot of Law and Order, you see white police officers, particularly the supervisors, in white shirts. So what does that say? Black bad, white good. We've got Law and Order right here, and we've got these bad people here. And if you think I'm wrong, I dare you go back and look at any one of those shots and tell me where I'm wrong.
And you know what, Joe, the thing that comes into that, though, and this is what that we all here as officers, we're all going to connect to this. And the civilians, you know it, but we're going to peel back a level right now and show you what you've already seen. We were just going to put a name on it. Every time we get these incidents, whether it's Terrence Crutcher, George Floyd, Tamir Rice, Alton Sterling, Philando Castile, we can go down the gambit. But every time we see them, the police chief, black or white, marches out there and says, we need more training. That's bullshit. You know, and I'm going to tell you why it is. And I'm going to call that out because when you take two officers from a department, they work the same shift, they work the same element, they work the same platoon, they're B partners. One is black, one is white. You send both of them to a training class. They both sit and listen to the same instructor. They leave from the same training class, drive back to the same department, same element, same shift, same beat. And they have two drastically different approaches to applying the training that both of them took. So the problem is not training, the problem is application. So now we have to go back and start looking at people we're hiring. Now let's just be real. We know police departments are ripe with nepotism. Some folks just got a job because their granddaddy was a cop and their daddy was a cop. So they think they're gonna be good. Some of them are hired because they got the good old boy look. They fit in. And departments will say this, you know, they want to hire, it looks good for the city to say we have this many blacks, we have this many Asians, we have this many Hispanics. They'll brag about that number. But I dare you, hello, Nakia, you know what I'm gonna say? I dare you to get black in the uniform. I dare you. They will come down on you like never before. So the optics of the police chiefs putting out that training line that they throw out, that's garbage. It's not, training isn't the issue, it's the application of the training, because we have people doing this job that psychologically are unfit and nobody wants to hurt their feelings.
That's true.
Oh, yes.
True. I was gonna say that, and LaRhonda, I know you about to tear this up. I also think that sometimes you get us as African Americans wanting to become a part of something.
Mhm.
And we really don't know, and we don't have a strong moral compass.
Mhm.
We don't have, some of us have low self-esteem. We don't know who we are. So when you get that, and then some of us have, you know, I want to be the man, or I want to be the woman, because it's women too, LaRhonda, you know I ain't lying. There's some female officers that a few times I wanted to say, take that uniform off and meet me outside, for real, because you're tripping. But they want this, you know, because there's a certain authority goes with it. They get on these departments, and especially if they end up mixing with the wrong type of element of police officers, white officers,
Absolutely.
what ends up happening is they start looking at you, the community, as, I'm not part of y'all. This is my clique. So they forget that they're black. What they identify is, they know they're not white, but they identify with the uniform. But what they forget is, when you take that uniform off, you are a black man or a black woman. So you get those type of officers, and those are the ones that I might not get involved, but I ain't gonna say nothing either.
I call them,
you know, I'm gonna pretend like I didn't see it. Or you even have the ones that will join in, because I want y'all to know I'm with y'all. But what they don't understand is, if you don't think that them white males or white females that are racist and act like that are not watching your behavior, they will never trust you, because they watch you turn on your own, and they gonna use you and use you up, and then they put your face out there when something go on. Oh, we got a black officer, we got a black female, or they put you out there. Y'all better pay attention. I think that's where I really feel like the black officers fall short, and we don't stick together within the departments. You have the ones that feel like, oh, I'm in good with the white guys, but then they'll throw you to the wolves. We don't stand together. Like, listen, you come for her. I don't care whether me and LaRhonda don't like each other or not. She's a sister, and she's in this department, and she in blue. You come for her, you coming for me too. We don't do that. But those white officers, y'all know it. They stick together.
all day.
Yeah, you know, I used to tell, because I think it's easy for rookie officers to get caught up in that, because they want to feel like they're a part, because the fact that you are African American and you come into that particular realm of career, you really don't fit in, to be honest.
Right.
And I think a lot of black rookie officers get caught up sometimes trying to fit in with their coworkers. And one thing I used to tell black rookie officers sometimes is, if you think that they see you the way the way you think they see you, when you get off work, I want you to get in your car and go ride around the hood, and I want you to speed a little bit. And when they stop you and you don't have that uniform on, and because you're a rookie, they don't know who you are, see how they treat you, and that will give you an understanding of who you are on this department. You still just another black man or a black woman when you take that uniform off to them. So don't ever forget where you come from.
And the injustice is obvious. Anytime you have a department and you have, you know, your fraternal order of police, or you may have the Chicago Police Association, Waco Police Association, you have an association there that's supposed to be addressing the concerns of the officers. But then again, you have the African American Police Officers Association, the Hispanic. So when you're subdivided within a unit, a cohesive family of blue, you know, when you self-divide on your own, that is those demographics saying, my needs are not being met. And I don't think that black officers in policing historically have been demanding. You know, we have settled for what we can get. And by and large, we, like LaRhonda said last week, we fight battles and we're out there taking care of those citizens, you know. But I think the institution does not understand, like I said last week on the show, when we all come in off the street and everybody changes into their regular clothes and walks out. I don't want people to see me in uniform. Why? Because something bad will happen to me. Somebody may say something. We don't get to take this off. Even in my gym clothes. And you know, when Nakia did her video, and I remember I saw it, and that next day, I mean, I was mad, but I had to get some sleep. I was so fed up after Philando Castile that I did mine, and I already knew what was going to happen to her. I knew what was coming, and then I did mine. And I'm going to tell you, you'd have thought I had COVID back when that happened, because I mean, it was nobody wanted to be bothered black or white, with the exception of one black officer that I've kept in touch with all this time. But I mean, they didn't, and the sad thing was I could understand the white officers not feeling comfortable with what I said. I expect that. But when I saw some of the black officers, the same ones who would come to me for advice on what they should do when they're getting written up. I mean, I call these people Stevies. I mean, if you saw Django Unchained, you know the Steven character.
Yeah.
That's what I call them. And it's not all of them, but it's just we divide and conquer ourselves within. And to a lot of the black officers, I'm gonna tell you, if you think, and I'm not knocking the profession of policing, I am knocking the way we are doing the profession. If you think that those people in there got your back, LaRhonda can tell you these stories, Nakia can tell you, and I'll tell you. There are officers who will let you know that I'm not backing you. There was an officer who,
Yes.
who made the statement, he's gonna out, Nakia, I'll send you the video, it's on my YouTube. I did a video on my time in my personal truck, off duty. Now I work nights, so I'm doing the video in the daytime, so obviously I'm not at work. Supporting Nike. When Nike gave the contract to Colin Kaepernick, I went into the mall and I walked into the store. I said, give me the most expensive pair of Nikes in this store. I paid for them, walked out to support Kaepernick. There was an officer who said he shouldn't be allowed to do that. That should be a violation of general orders. I'm gonna keep digging in his Facebook. I'm gonna get him wrote up on something. Now, why this young officer, and he wasn't even there 5 years, why did he feel emboldened to do it? Because the older officers who did not like my stance on policing emboldened him. And I think policing needs to understand one thing. For me, at the time I spoke up, they saw Stan as a good officer. They saw that blue uniform. But the minute they saw Stan as a black man that happens to be a police officer, then that disconnect came. And in this climate we're in today, racially, you have to question the disconnect.
Yes.
Well, let me throw this at you. I don't know of any other group whose singularity, whether it be policing, mirrors that of their sociological growth. And here's what I mean. Black policemen have not been around that much longer than civil rights. The same way they've treated our leaders is the way they treat our leaders on the police department. You very rarely see real, true black leaders. And again, it goes back to what Stan was saying, and all of us know it. We know the people that should be leaders. Well, what do? They silence them. The four of us know for a fact. None of us could get promoted because you talk too damn much. You know too much. You incite. You know, you Negroes talk and think too much. I had a guy tell me almost that, but I would tell this, and I said this on the last show, and I want you all to know this. I work for probably, it depends on what day it is, probably the second or third largest police department in the country. They were telling nigger jokes at roll call in CPD. The night Harold Washington won, one of the watch commanders got on the radio, and I quote, "The nigger won. The nigger won. The fucking nigger won," on the radio, and was nothing done to that cat. So you ain't got to tell me about systemic racism. All we got to do is look at the police department. You want to see where your original community policing came from? Look at the black officers, because you didn't get squad cars.
And
you didn't have access
in the neighborhood.
We didn't have guns.
On
I'm
foot.
done.
On foot. So they had to become community police officers.
Bingo.
Say it. So we invented the community police.
That's right.
Without a doubt.
That's
Without
right.
a doubt.
Absolutely.
That's right. And
I know
this
y'all
is
ready.
what-
I see
now I
y'all.
gotta get on my soapbox. Y'all have taken me there. See, this is why I get so upset with the black community when they dog out black officers, because black officers are fighting battles on the inside that the black community has no idea of what they're going through. They're fighting battles so that you don't get treated bad on the street. They're going through hell and hot water on that job to make sure that you are treated somewhat equally out there on the street. Because I'm gonna tell you this, if the black officers weren't going through the things that they were going through and speaking up on the inside, policing would be much worse than what we see today. So if you think it's bad now, You need to stop a black officer when you see them and say thank you, because I guarantee
Absolutely.
you they are having arguments in roll call. They are sitting in sergeant and lieutenant and captain's offices going off about things that they have seen go on in the street that shouldn't have happened, or talking to supervisors about the way they're being treated, amongst other officers. Is happening. You just don't see it. Just like any other job, you cannot air out your dirty laundry in the public in front of everybody. So no, you're not gonna see the black officer come out and talk about all the things that's going on in that department. But I, for one, spoke up, and I know a whole lot of them that spoke up, and you knew nothing about it. But because they spoke up, some things changed. So respect these black officers, because they're going through hell for you.
Yeah, and see, to that point, when Kai spoke up, and you have black folks saying, well, if you really were about this movement, then you need to quit. You need to take off that uniform. But just like LaRhonda said, that's the reason. That was part of the reason why Kai became an officer in the first place.
Exactly.
So that's like you're taking away the power that she has if she quits, if she takes off the uniform, and any other black officer that feels.
And that's what I try to tell people. You cannot make change on the outside. Why? Because you don't know the statutes, you don't know the general orders, you don't know the laws. Unless you get on the inside and you know what they know, then you can't make change. You have got to learn what they learn. You have got to have the knowledge so you know how to maneuver and get things done. You're not going to do that by running down to the city council meeting. You need black officers that become captains and chiefs. You need black officers that become sergeants. You need black officers that know how to go out here and speak up on the scene and tell that officer that's doing what they're not supposed to, you can't do that in my presence. That's what you need to make change. So all y'all sitting around complaining, talking about what the black officer ain't doing, until you put that uniform on, I'm not trying to hear it.
Exactly. I agree with her. Another thing is too, we gotta know that we're supported. You have black officers that stand up, go to bat for you, and you don't understand the internal stuff that's going on with you getting stuff, threats in your mailbox, bullets to the head. I ain't gonna back you up. I'm not gonna do this. And you out there fighting, and then you lose everything. And then the black community do like this. I'm supporting you, but way back here, you done lost your house, your car, your job, you and your family about to be homeless. My thing is, when you see a good officer that's standing up and speaking for you and they lose everything, it should have been like Zimmerman. Did you see how much money they gave that man? They rose $3 million for him for his attorney fees. And we don't stick together like that.
No,
they don't know. We're sitting up at work with people who are saying don't assist her. She calls for an assist. I had a sergeant, not an officer, a supervisor, tell roll call, the officers in roll call, when I come back from ATF and come back to gang, if she calls for an assist, don't assist her. I'm mad because she didn't tell me about the warrant they ran. All because she wanted to be on a warrant? Don't assist me? Get out of here. See, we're fighting battles that they don't know anything about. We're putting our lives on the line, not just in uniform. We're putting our lives on the line just by simply dealing with some of the people we have to work with.
That's right.
You know, and I think, LaRhonda, to your point, this is what I want the listeners to understand about policing, that I don't think that they get, and they certainly don't get it from departments. Police departments are not these shiny blue families that live in castles on the hill and everybody gets along. It is a conglomeration of individual kingdoms. The day shift doesn't get along with the afternoon shift. The afternoon shift doesn't like the midnight shift. On the shift, this squad doesn't like that squad. The detectives think they know everything. They don't like this person. The chief doesn't like the detectives. The assistant. It is so much infighting. Now I'm gonna drop a bomb in here today.
And don't even get into all the everybody sleeping around. All the folks
you knew where I'm going.
Spouses.
You knew
we
where
ain't
I'm
gonna
going.
talk about that.
You know, when I hear them talk about how safe the police departments are, a safe place. You've got alcoholism. You've got mental health conditions from the stress. It comes from the job, and you are sitting in a room in roll call with This guy is pissed off because he's screwing this guy's wife. You just saw him in the locker room. Everybody in the room got a pistol. Now, we've all been to the club. Isco shot for stepping on a pair of shoes, much less sleeping with somebody's wife. And these people got all those mental issues brewing, alcohol problems, whatever else. It's certainly not everybody, but it's in almost every department, I guarantee you. And everybody in the room's got guns.
And I'll do one better than that. I used to work with a couple. Now, this is how crazy this is. This was a couple, a married couple. They allowed them to work on the same shift, same side of town. Do you know they were having domestic violence on duty?
Wow.
You gotta go stop the police from fighting each other on duty.
It's a good partner.
And then when they get off work, we gotta go to the house because we get the call because they fighting at home.
So let me ask y'all this. How can y'all effectively police when y'all have so many culture issues inside? How can y'all be effective when y'all are destructive and messy, but yet y'all supposed to go out and enforce these things in public when y'all own house ain't in order?
But
Hold on. Let me answer that.
Go ahead, Joe.
Let me just jump in at that question. First off, the house may be nasty to you, but we get our stuff in order to save the rest of y'all.
Yeah, we do.
Now,
Yeah.
that may sound crass, but the fact of the matter is that we have to get our stuff in order because no one else is going to do it. You can't call the GDs, you can't call the Stones. So who you going to call? Ghostbusters. And we arrive. Now, the problem is that, yes, there are a lot of people that are carrying a whole lot of baggage. But when you need somebody, we jumping through. We're the only group that you call that say they shooting at me and we coming at
And we coming, yeah.
Now, firemen don't even do that.
No.
Now, everybody loves firemen.
They call y'all.
They call us. They call them crazy mothers and say, listen, they over here shooting at us. Pookie and Ray Ray. And guess who coming? Like I say, Ghostbusters.
But
And
you
you
know,
know what's
And see,
crazy?
that's the thing. You cannot, and I say this with the climate that we're in now, with a lot of these officers that are doing these unnecessary shootings. You cannot be afraid to go into battle and do this job. You cannot be afraid of the fight and do this job. You got to know going into it, you might have to take a butt whooping every now and then because you can't rely on your gun every time. You can't shoot every time. Sometimes you might have to take that punch to the face and take your butt home, get your black eye together, and come back. Because at the end of the day, whoever it was that hit you, they gonna be right back there. They ain't going nowhere.
They ain't
You
going-
got tomorrow, but you can't shoot them and kill them.
But
So
you know-
the problem with a lot of these officers is they're afraid. They're afraid to get in there and get dirty. And they think their gun is the answer to everything, and it's not. You got to be able to take the punch.
Yep, I think I said it on your show, Stan, when I said my first department I got on, it was EC. And I remember one of my sergeants telling me, you ain't a real cop yet. I'm like, what? Yeah, I got my uniform, my badge, and my gun. I am a real cop. Don't tell me. He said, no, you're not. Until I went to a bar fight. And it was a big guy. When I tell you, he was a big dude. I'm not even arguing with this man. The male officers are arguing with him. I'm just standing there and I think I'm cute. You know, when you're young as a cop, you really don't know what you're getting into until you really got to get into it. I'm standing there, got my nails done. That guy said, I said I ain't going to jail, back to jail or something. The male officers, they getting their stance like we about to get it in. I'm not paying attention. This male said, he punched me so hard, knocked me up in the air, and I was just sitting there like this. And when I tell you, I was like in a daze. If he wanted to take my weapon, anything he wanted to do to me, he could have done to me. It was officers betting, saying she ain't coming back. When I got back to the station, they were like, you want to go home? No, I'm good. My pride was more hurt than anything, but it taught me something too. It taught me that, listen here, you can't whoop everybody.
That's right.
So you're going to have to learn some new tactics. Being a woman, you better use what you got. So sometimes I start saying, come on, baby. We ain't got to do this. You better use, I ain't got to shoot you. I can be nice and calm, you know, and at least keep you calm enough till my boys get here. So if it get rough, they got me. When the next day I came to work, my sergeant shook my hand and said, now you're a real police officer. I said, why? He said, because you just learned that you can't always depend on your gun. And sometimes you might have to take a L. And that's the problem.
And you know, Rachel, to your question, I know for me, my experience was unique because when I moved to Waco, I lived at 1911 North 6th. That was at the corner of Murder and Mayhem. Okay, it was, I mean, my kids grew up listening not to birds. It got so bad. My daughter was about 5, my son was 2. There would be gunfire less than a half a block away, and my kids wouldn't even, there was no reaction to it. But I went to work in that neighborhood, I went home, but everybody there knew me. So I was part of the neighborhood that I was working in. And this is what I tell officers. If you don't go out and get into that neighborhood is going to get in your car. And so there were more people in that community in Waco up to this day that supported me than people in that police department, Black, white, and Hispanic. Those citizens supported me because they saw Stan at the gym. They saw Stan at church, at the corner store, sitting on his porch drinking a beer. They saw me. And so they, to me, being a police officer was what I did. One of the biggest drug dealers in Waco lived across the street from me. When I would come home from the academy, when they raided his house one morning, the SWAT team, everybody's out there. His wife and his kids are sitting on the curb. And I came out and said, hey, I'll bring these kids in my house. Just bring them over here so they're not sitting down. He respected that. But this same guy who, yeah, he's a drug dealer, he's a bad guy, he's all these things. When I would come home from the academy tired in the weekend, he'd be outside cutting his grass and all that or whatever. And he'd say, man, you going to be a good cop, man. You're going to be a good cop. You know, I have murderers that would turn themselves into me. Because if I said, I'll come get you by myself, one thing in the hood, if officers don't get nothing else from this show, respect is earned. It is not given. And once you get it, you honor your word. You don't break your word for the department. If you can't close the case, if you need me to tell you who told me, you just not gonna close that. Here's the gun, here's the guy that did it. You the detective, start detecting. You know, I'm gonna give it to you, but you have to be part of that community, especially when you live in it. And for officers who say, well, I don't even live in the city, that's bullshit, because if you spend 40 hours a week in that neighborhood, guess what? You live there. 40 hours, and your neighborhood is your office. You're not going to come in my house and throw trash down.
Right.
I saw you throw a bottle on the sidewalk. I pull over, go in the store, get a broom, and I take you all the way up to the end of the block. I said, now you got 2 choices. You can take this gutter all the way down this block and pick up this trash, or you can get this littering ticket.
So let me ask this question. Why do you think, because to Stan's point, where you said respect is not automatically given, it's earned, why do you think so many officers take that stance when they feel like their feelings have gotten hurt? They automatically go into this whole mode of, you're going to respect me, and that's when you see people getting yanked out the car and folks putting the handcuffs on when it was a simple stop. Why do you think these officers don't have this tough skin that you guys are talking about?
Because we moved away from the root of policing. So Robert Peels, the founding father of policing, with modern day policing, he wrote 9 tenets, which are called the Peelian principles. They're tantamount to the 10 commandments to a Christian. Okay, every church you go into, the 10 commandments are on the wall, yet you can walk into your police department lobby and not see those 9 tenets, nor are they even taught anymore in academies, in very few academies. And it's interesting you brought that up, because one of the tenets specifically says that it is not the citizen's responsibility to respect the officer. It is the officer's responsibility to earn the citizen. Now, why are you not teaching these officers this? Because we as a society have made officers heroes just because they put on a uniform. There's a lady tonight working the Burger King drive-thru, putting up with drunks and folks that won't wear their mask for less money than officers. Okay, she's wearing a uniform. You got greeters at Walmart. If you're coming into this job for hero worship, which society has made us heroes.
That's right.
So when the public servant becomes the God, what does that make you the public?
Right.
And you know, when I went through the academy 28 years ago.
Cough, 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 cough.
When I went through the academy, it wasn't that long ago, but it was, but we were taught to be servants first, and I think that they have gotten away from that. Officers, we were taught you cannot be offended by what someone says to you. You don't have a right to be offended, because you're there to serve and you're there to protect. So we were taught something as simple as saying, good morning, ma'am. Good morning, sir. That was the first thing we were taught in the police academy. When that door opens or you see a face come through this academy, you better say good morning, ma'am, or good morning, sir. And if we don't hear you say it, everybody's running. People hated to come to the academy when we were on a break because you got 30 people standing in the hall saying, good morning, ma'am, good morning, ma'am, good morning, ma'am, good morning, ma'am. You know, so they taught you that if you saw somebody coming and you were at that door, you better open that door for them. So we were taught to be a servant before we were taught to protect. And I think that they are no longer teaching officers to be servants. They're teaching them more to be warriors today. And it's a time to be a warrior, but you got to serve first.
That's
and
right.
You have to be a servant first.
Let me add to that a little bit. We agree and disagree on a few issues, but the reality is that we've gotten away from what this thing called common sense. Let's talk about that for a second. If common sense was so common, there'd be no need for the police. That being said, however, our training has gone down the tube. And here's what I mean. When we came on the job, at least in Chicago, the last week before you hit the street was called Psych Week. So for 1 week, you had psychological training, which they took you off-site, and for 8 hours, they put you through different scenarios. Everything from shootings to domestics to everything else. Let me just share this with you. On our wall in the Chicago Police Academy are the walls of officers killed in the line of duty. 8 to 10 of those guys got killed in real life in the scenarios that they said would not happen to them in the academy. Listen very carefully what I just said.
Wow.
You had the training. The other thing is this. We had training where our instructors would call you out your name. And I don't mean they call you, hey, Fat Joe, you like cake or something today. They call you some choice names. But guess what? The citizens can do that. You don't have the same First Amendment rights, Second Amendment rights that the citizens have.
Right.
And again, we get crossed up with our training because we tend to think that we have a certain category of rights that exempt us from certain things. And in fact, you lose rights as the police, and they don't understand that. You lose the right to free speech. You lose the right to self-association. You lose the right to a whole bunch of things. In fact, you lose the right to warrantless search. Just so you know, your locker is owned by the department. So if they choose to search your locker, they don't need a warrant, but you need a warrant to search Pookie's house.
That's right.
Right. It's everything y'all saying is so true, and I want to piggyback off of you and LaRhonda, you and Joe. The other thing is, have y'all noticed that on some police cars they've taken off the word serve? Pay attention. It just says protect. So they putting that out there. The other thing is, you can't protect me unless you can serve me. Because the only way you can serve me is that means you respect me. And that's the issue when you go into these neighborhoods where you get these white officers or Hispanic or black officers that don't like us. Because y'all will be surprised. There are some of us that don't like us.
We already know.
It's just sad. But you going and you work in these neighborhoods and you dealing with me. How can you teach me respect, treat me with respect and serve me if you think I'm a piece of mess? If you say, oh, I'm dealing with this piece of again, or you have some negative, oh, look at her, she got all them babies and da-da-da. Y'all, a lot of male officers talk real nasty about a lot of these females they arrest, but then you will catch them sleeping with them too.
Oh, no question.
Then we try to talk about paramilitary, how the department say we're paramilitary. Well, in the military, from what I understand, and maybe Stan, you can back me, or anybody's been in the military, I heard that if you mess around with your wife, you get court-martialed. You lose your job. In the police department, it's a bragging right. I'm messing with this one's wife. And then you're sitting there, just like y'all said, it's been many days when you sitting there thinking, oh my God, this gonna go bad, and I'm gonna end up getting shot in here because somebody's husband or somebody, you would really be, I'm very serious. But we're supposed to go out there and judge the community. That's the reason why it seems like we should be more humble, because we're held to a higher standard, but we do the same thing everybody else do. We have domestic problems, we have financial problems. That's why I tell people, stop making us gods. We are human beings, and it takes a special person to become a cop, and when you become a cop, you should be humble anyway. because you know you ain't perfect.
But what I think what happened to policing though, in the last 25 years, and we did a show on this 2 months ago, that we talked about the commercialization of policing. And in my personal opinion, the worst thing that ever happened to this profession, I grew up, and Joe, watching Adam 12, where you saw dialogue, the officers would talk to people.
Yep.
You know, then we had this show called Cops. Now, let's stop for a minute. And what happened when we hear subliminal messaging? When we bad boys, what do we see on the screen? Car chases, barking dogs, helicopters, and this generation that we now see in policing, they grew up, I want to do that. I want to do that. They want to be a blue GI Joe. So society has already said, this is what we want you to be by the success of cops. City managers and mayors and city councils, along with police chiefs, sold their departments down the river by signing these contracts because they thought it would make the city look good. You all know that are officers. That show was bullshit because you stop somebody that's public intoxicated. I'm sorry, but there's not 5 officers, a K9 unit, a helicopter, a sergeant. That is bull. But they tell you in roll call.
It's
they
for
tell
TV.
You 4 follow so-and-so. They make a stop, you be there. So when we take our citizens, who whether they're drunk or whether they're just having a bad moment, and we're willing to market them, you know, to boost the image of the individual officers. And if you think officers do not perform for a camera, you need to look at some of them dash cam videos. Because they will perform. Watch how they change when the dash cam comes on.
Yep. Because that is not their behavior. Trust me. Come on, sir. No, you know good and well that camera was on, that would not have went that way. Oh, come on, let me help you. No, trust me. All of us on this panel know better than that.
We've seen it.
Well, didn't you all hear that they now are not going to air any cops episodes anymore because they've come to recognize the detriment to which it's done to officers as a whole and the community at large? Well, so I have a question for you all. I mean, because I hear a lot about respect and protect and serve, and while these may be things in theory, we're not necessarily always seeing them in praxis. And so how do we start to bridge that gap? How do we start to, you know, communities that aren't doing community engaged policing, how do we have that happen? How do we start to do some healing within our departments? While, like, I agree with what you're saying, Joe, about, well, we may have these issues, but we're still the ones rushing in. But how much better could the departments be if there was certain amounts of healing and respect among one another? Like, how do we go from what we're at to healing?
Here, let me tell you particularly how we can start. The first thing you start is with the officer understanding that, as Stan alluded to earlier, you don't automatically get the respect that you think that you earn. Here's the other thing. We talked about it, and I will say this, and I bang the gavel on this. We are social workers. The problem is a lot of these cats are told, hey, this ain't social work. Guess what?
Yes,
I don't know who told you that. That is the biggest lie
exactly what it is.
known to mankind. The problem is that we have taken the idea of social work and kind of made it, prostituted it to the point where we make it what we want it to be. However, let me clarify that. If you understand the principles, the Pelian principles, and understand that respect is earned and not given, and that you are there to serve, not collect and protect, but to serve, those preambles will give you the guidance that you need. Because you know at that point, let me just throw this word to you: discretion. Police departments used to have tons of discretion. And here, let me give you a true life example. All of us have stopped somebody that was drunk. I have taken people home. I have. Today's guy can't do that because their departments don't allow them to. But discretionary powers would give you the time to do that. The other problem is this. They've taken the powers of discretion away because these guys don't have common sense. So everything's kind of each thing builds on itself. But the first and foremost issue, at least for me, is understanding we are social workers, plain and simple.
You know, Heidi,
Train these guys to the level of the social workers. See what happens.
I got a radical solution for you, because I love solutions, and I like bringing radical solutions to the table. You know,
I like it already.
and it's so funny because these are things that we see every day and we just don't click into. You know, a police chief, number one, is not a police officer. They don't arrest anybody. They don't put anybody in jail. They don't write tickets. They don't investigate accidents. All they do is move people and sign paper. That's all they do. And go to photo ops, you know, and manage the department. So that being said, the guy's got 25, 30 years as a police officer. So ideally, he's going to be a good chief. That's nonsensical. You got right now in all of your cities, you got Walmarts there. So let's say there's one person, it's probably 35 years old. There's an HR district manager for 3 Walmarts. So we're going to say 3 Walmarts, we'll say they got 6,000 employees. Vendors, overhead, stock, merchandising, sales, responsibility for the building, their 401ks, all that stuff. One person. So if we can elect a sheriff whose jurisdiction is wider than any chief in this country, then why don't you elect the chief? Why is it that when chiefs are selected, they're selected behind closed doors in executive session by city councils, and the officers find out who the chief is the same time the community does? And when you take somebody who's not from that city and plug them into that city, it's going to take them 3 years to get up to speed. The average chief stays 5 years.
Look at Chicago.
You know what, Stan? I totally agree with you. I think me and Jocelyn was talking about, I said, I wish that police officers had to be elected. And I feel like if you do have to take, like, I don't agree with chiefs being taken from within for one reason and one reason only. What if that wasn't a good officer? When you was an officer, what if you were a terrible officer, which means that a lot of officers got dirt on you. Which means when you became a sergeant, you probably was a terrible sergeant, got dirt on you there. Which means that when you become a chief, you're going to have to look sideways at things that's going on in your department. So why don't you let the citizens elect their chief? The other thing I think with the healing is you have got to start making the police departments be responsible. You need to make that chief responsible for that lieutenant. That lieutenant responsible for that sergeant, and that sergeant responsible for the men that's under him. Because in my house, if this is your house as a chief, how do you not know what's going on in your house? And as a mayor, you need to make that city council, make the mayors be responsible, and the city council members do have the power to vote those mayors up out of there. But you got to enforce it. So that means if you got some guys running rogue that's on the road and they going crazy, the lieutenant need to be looking at sergeant saying, how do you not know that your guys out there doing it? Because you all know it's the writing is already on the wall. Officers just don't go out and shoot nobody. It's a buildup. You see it. All of us have seen them officers where you be like, oh, it ain't nothing but a matter of time. That one right there. So if we can see it, you can't tell me that the chiefs, the lieutenants, and the sergeants don't know. They know. So if you start saying, guess what? It partners too. If I'm with my partner, but you got to make it safe for them. You can't say we want to try to tell, but then if you tell, we're gonna ostracise you and you probably gonna lose your job.
I see you. You're about to
head into. Wait, I'm about to hit something because when I was in it, and on one of the major questions on my thing when I went to fill out my application, they said, if you see a police officer doing something wrong, will you report it? If I had said no, that would have been it. But if when I say yes and I do it or I speak out, now I get ostracized, I get fired, police it's almost like a double-edged sword.
It's a double standard.
It's a double standard.
Let me say this to you. If you've read any of the consent decrees that have been handed down, particularly Chicago, LA, and New York, and even Florida, all of them start out with a span of control. All of them talk about the accountability issue, and they also talk about the need of more authority at the sergeant's level because you've got too many men to handle. However, it also talks about this thing, and we talk about it all the time, what you're about to allude to, is whistleblower protection. Just so you know, there is no whistleblower protection for local law enforcement. No. Now, there's a 10-page document for whistleblower for the Coast Guard. There is a 5-page document for whistleblower for the FBI. But now who's got the problem? They're not writing consent decrees on the Coast Guard. They're not writing consent decrees on the FBI. But if you're telling me you've got 100-page document saying that this department is messed up, it's got systemic racism, and they all start the same way. There's a problem with systemic racism. Everyone.
Yep.
Wow.
To your point, you talked about, where you had to sign about, you would talk, I have to point out this other officer. If you go to the webpage of the Minneapolis PD, on the first page, item 5 says, if your partner's doing something wrong, you have the duty to interfere.
Duty.
Listen to
Key
me.
word.
Duty.
Duty.
Wow. But if you did that, you would ostracize.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah.
Exactly. So my thing is, if you start really making them be responsible, then I believe, honestly, I'm being honest, y'all, the community will look at law enforcement different because they will feel like being accountable. All the community is saying, we just want some accountability.
That's right.
That's it. Nobody can be 100% right. How is every single police shooting justified? It's impossible.
Right. Right.
And
you have to, I think it's important. And again, they don't have whistleblower protection.
Yes.
However, they need to put it in place because it's important to teach rookies in the academy the importance of accountability and turning in officers that are doing wrong. Look, I think maybe I'm just a little crazy, but let me tell y'all something. And when I got out of the academy, my first training officer was a straight up butthole. I mean, he was, when I say a butthole, he was a butthole. And he was black. Let me make sure I make everybody clear on that. It wasn't a white man, it was a black man. And he treated me like trash. The first month, it was just horrible. I'm cool with hazing, but you can get out of hand with some stuff. So I went through that month. I didn't say anything. I would kind of snap back at him every now and then, but I kind of kept my cool and went on about my business. Went through my next 2 months of training. I had the hardest white guy that they said rips up rookies left and right. Had no problems with him. None. Got back with the black guy for my last 2 weeks, what they call the ghost phase, meaning your training officer just wears plain clothes and you're the actual officer. So they can see that you know what you're doing. This man got upset because I forgot to write something on the worksheet, grabbed me in my chest like this and tells me to get out the car. The first mistake he made was putting his hands on me.
Yes.
That was the first mistake. Everything else I can handle. You can cuss me out, you can call me out my name, but when you touch me, now we got a problem. So I'm in the driver's seat. I said, first of all, don't touch me. He said, you talking to me like that, I'll get you fired. That's the first thing he said to me. You ain't got no protection. You ain't nothing but a rookie. I'll get you fired. I said, you know what? You ain't got to get me fired. I'll quit. I said, but you ain't going to put your hands on me. So he tells me, now it's pouring down rain and it's dark. Get out my car. Now I'm driving. I said, I'm not getting out the car. He said, oh, you're going to get out the car. I said, what you going to do? You going to drag me out the car? He was like, get out the car. So I said, Lord, forgive me. If you want me out the car, you get your black ass out because I'm not getting out. He says, drive me to the office right now. I'm fixing to get you fired right now. I said, okay. I drove to the office. I got out the car. I went upstairs to the sergeant's office. I took my gun belt off, laid it on the table and said, if I got to ride with him another day, y'all can have this doggone job. They were like, whoa, whoa, whoa. 2 white guys. They were like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Wait a minute. What happened? He goes in there and tells them, I don't know my signals. I don't know nothing. Now, you can't get through 3 months of training, the ghost phase, and you don't know anything. So they already know he lying, So next thing I know, they put me with somebody else, get him on track or whatever they're going to do with him. Luckily for me, I was on a shift with a lot of brothers and sisters, and they rallied around me. They quit dealing with him. He regretted that. Come to find out later, he was a woman beater. He was beating his wife. I didn't fit the mold because I talked back. Now, the average rookie wouldn't have said anything. The average rookie would have let that go.
Right.
Me being the fool that I am was like, dude, we both got guns. So if it's going down, it's going down. You ain't gonna put your hands on me. That's where I draw the line. This little money they paying me is not enough for that. And I think when rookies get to the point that they know that they will be protected, they will tell when their training officers do wrong, or when they get out there in the street and they have a partner that's doing wrong, they will tell it. Everybody, I understand everybody ain't crazy like me. I really don't think, you know, because it don't matter. It could be today. You ain't putting your hands on me. That's just where we draw the line. But you know, that's something that I had to deal with in my first 3 months as a police officer. And that should not happen. People should not feel like they cannot go and report another officer. There was a lady who trained with him before me. She came to me and said, thank you for reporting him, because he pulled his gun on me on a traffic stop to teach me officer safety. She never told anybody that.
And
never told.
And then you got to think about this. So I mean, I'm gonna pose this to Stan and you and Joe. Can you imagine how that affects a rookie? So if I've been hazed, and basically that's what it is, you're pledging them. You got them doing crazy stuff like, what's the name of this street? You don't know it, get out the car and walk. And crazy stuff like just you being mean and just hazing them and being terrible. Now you putting these rookies on the street to deal with the community.
Yeah.
Right.
Doesn't that go back to the culture issue though?
I was just thinking all of this. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a cultural anthropologist. And to me, this is all culture. And one of the things that you need for a culture to subsist is to have structure. And you're talking about writing policy and implementing structure in order to ensure that you can sustain the culture. And right now we have, in cultures, when they're maladaptive, they eventually implode on themselves and they collapse. And and right now I feel like we are seeing that's starting to happen within police forces, and at least among the community, right? Like we have different conversations about whether or not defunding police, and what does that actually mean? Does officers, and this is something, if we have a chance to do a future show with you, I want to know more from your perspective. What does defunding police look like or sound like to you? How do you envision that? Or is it something, I could imagine that in police precincts, that could, on one hand, it doesn't necessarily mean taking away full funding, but it could also put you in a space of a juxtaposition of the police force versus the community, not necessarily feeling supported. And I feel like we're watching an entire collapse of infrastructure if we don't start to rebuild the skeleton to have a more meaningful meat or culture of our police force around it. I realized I totally went into professor and academic mode right then. But it's
about maladaptive. I'm like, let me do that
right there.
I Googled it.
I'm an academic, so I'm following you.
Well, right, we're all here together. I mean, this is really interesting.
Yeah, so I was about to say, Joe, LaRhonda, Stan, we need to do it too. We have to. We got to do a
Part two.
We got to do a part two. Everybody is asking about. I mean, we got a lot of people asking. It's so many questions they want to know. They want to know about what we think about defunding the police. They want to know about, you know, what was it like, and that's going to be a nice show. What was it like being Black in a blue uniform? They really want to know. Like, we want to really give y'all, and it's going to be a little different. We will probably all have some of the same.
What it is.
It is, and we may all have some of the same experiences, but I guarantee you, LaRhonda, me and you had some similar experiences that y'all haven't had.
Yeah, I always tell people it's totally different for a Black woman
it is.
than it is for a Black man and a man in general. The Black woman deals with some stuff on the department, and I know a lot of men may not agree, but the Black woman deals with some stuff on the department that men will never ever deal with.
I'm being so honest.
Because from a white woman.
Correct? Yes, it's a difference. The males, it almost seems like some of the white males may try and say something to me, whereas if they see you, Stan, or see you, Joe, they be like, oh, nah, But with us, it's almost like I'm gonna say it because I'm gonna get it off. And
then as a Black woman, when you respond and you check them, then you become the angry Black woman. See, we as Black women, we can't put you in your place and just be a professional because you were out of line. You know, you were unprofessional. When we check you, now we're angry, we're aggressive, we're overly aggressive, we're all these different adjectives now.
That's right. And then don't let us bring up something about being sexually harassed, because you'd be surprised how many female police officers have been raped in the line of duty, how many have been sexually harassed in the line of duty. And a lot of us don't speak up because we already know it's something called being blackballed. If you,
I had a rule. I had a personal rule. I always set these personal boundaries for myself. I always have. Even as a young person. And when I became a police officer, I was only 22 years old. Okay. I was a baby. I was a 22-year-old kid, walked right out of college into the police department. And I had a rule. I said, I will never date another police officer that works in my department. My rule even went a little further. I said, I'll never date a police officer. Here I am today, 50 years old. I've never dated a police officer on the department that I worked. I've never dated a police officer, period. And I set that rule for myself because when I got there, I saw so many relationships within the department that did not work. And then you would see people go and date another police officer within the department. And before long, you had people that had been married and divorced 2 or 3 times to different officers on the department. So for me, and I'm not knocking anybody because I know people who are married to other officers on the department and their marriages worked and everything is great. But for me, I never wanted to take the chance of me having a relationship with somebody where I work and it not work out, and then my name is dirt out there in the department. So that was my way of protecting my career. That was just me.
Listen, I will give you a top of the hands because I can say the same thing. I always said I don't want to sleep and I don't want to eat and sleep in the same place. And I want you to watch not watch my ass. So I want you to watch my back, not my, because you're sleeping with me. It's a different aspect when somebody's sleeping with you than when you out there like, this is my big brother. Not afterwards we're gonna go behind this building.
Right.
So, and I'm very serious, but being a female officer, and you all know we watch dispatchers and female officers because we feel so bad for them, like they talking about y'all.
I mean, the stereotype that we had, there was a stereotype, and I'll never forget this. I was at a football game because I was dating a fireman. I did date a firefighter, which we were actually dating before I ever became a police officer. And of course, he was so jacked up. After him, I never dated another one. But anyway, I was dating this firefighter, and he played football on the police team. So I went to the game, and I'm sitting there in front of some ladies who were married to some of my coworkers, but they didn't know that I was a police officer, right? So they had this conversation, and the lady said, this is what she said, and this is where the stereotype comes from. She said her husband told her, because they started talking about female cops, her husband told her that they were all the female cops were either whores or gay.
Wow.
Now, it took everything in me not to turn around and say nothing because number one, I'm not a whore. And number two, I'm not gay. Now, I don't knock anybody that is gay, but that's not who I am.
That's
okay?
Right.
So I sat there and listened to it, and I was like thinking to myself, well, first of all, he's telling her that because he's screwing somebody on the department. So he don't want you to know who he's messing with. So there's a lot of stereotypes for women on the police department. So we have to walk a fine line to protect our reputation.
Right.
That's so true. So I really want us to do a show, a number 2.
Part 2 next week.
We have to. We got to do a part 2 so we can get really deep in this thing. I know I want to thank you all for coming out. Finally, the powerhouses meet. Yeah. I feel like, look, my brother from another mother, because we
For
some
real.
radical folk. And LaRhonda, I feel like you my twin. And honestly, I feel like Joe is the calm when I'm gonna be calm. But you see that storm when he gets serious, he's sitting back. But then I see him. Let me address something. I say, oh, here it comes. Here it comes. I love it. I thank you all. And when I tell you I am honored to have y'all on this platform with me, it's nothing like feeling them shoulders of people that know what it feels like to go through it. And so I want to thank you. First, I thank all three of you. You already know I support you. I support you. I support you. Call me, I'm coming. Whatever I need to do. One thing about me.
You know we got you.
I'm coming with her too, okay?
That's right. Listen, and that was the radical one right there. She was nice today. I was waiting. I said, Stan and Rachel gonna be going. They gonna be getting them today, boy. They gonna get them.
I was sitting back and listening. I was absorbing information.
Nakia, can I give your listeners some homework real quick?
Yes.
For a solution. Oh yeah, if they want to be socially conscious and you want police reform, then you need to know what you talk about when you walk in that door. That's why we don't get changed. But
Yes.
there are 4 types of, I want everybody who's listening to this to listen to these 4 types of policing. And you need to call the chief. The chief sets the tone for policing in your department and the direction. These are the 4 types. You have reactive policing. That's when the officers just go out there and react to whatever's going on. You have call driven. That's Chicago, LA, Detroit, where the officers' computer screens just full of calls. All they're doing is running calls. There's nothing proactive in what they're going to do. You have problem-oriented policing. And problem-oriented policing, a lot of chiefs will call that community policing. It's not. Problem-oriented policing, if Stan goes to a call at Heidi's house and helps Heidi with social services or whatever through Heidi's problem, the other of us here represent other houses in the community. You don't gain anything from Stan helping Heidi. Then you have community policing, okay? And community policing now, when Stan goes to Heidi's problem, Stan is going to refer Heidi to Jocelyn, who's been through that before. And Jocelyn teaches Heidi how to go to the problem and calls on me for direction or resources. So you're empowering the community. So it's reactive policing, call driven, problem solving or problem oriented policing, and community policing. Just call and ask the chief, which one are we doing? And that's important because if you got 20 officers doing problem oriented policing, 100 officers doing reactive policing, these are doing call driven, that shows that the department has no direction. And when the chief does not set a tone for the department, that is why you see so many departments fragmented in their productions. Why does this shift writing tickets and this shift doesn't? So those are very, all the officers know those terms and types of policing, but we don't share that with the community. So I just wanted to give them something to leave here and just sit down and go, wow, I'm gonna call down there and ask, which one are we doing? You can't go north, south, east, and west. That's it. That's the only directions you can do. And if the police act like they don't know what you're talking about, y'all got problems.
Yeah.
Wow.
You all please do that homework because I'm really curious when we come back next week. I want to know how many people did it and I'm curious to see what the department's answers were. How many we gonna get to saying they're doing community police and how many are doing I'm really, really, really curious to see and how many are gonna tell you, I don't know what you're talking about.
Right. What is it?
Right. Absolutely. So you all want to say any closing remarks? Stan, Joe, LaRhonda?
Let me throw this to you, and also a little bit of homework to add. And even Heidi and Rachel, please take a look at your police budgets. If you want to know what's really going on, take a look at the budgets.
Follow the money.
Always follow the money. Now, if you start looking into asset forfeiture, that's a whole show by itself.
Yeah, oh yeah.
But I'll leave it at that.
Write it down.
Start there.
Yeah.
Start there. And then come talk to me.
Yeah. Yeah. LaRhonda?
I don't have any homework. For those who don't know, I'm a bit of an academic. I'm working to finish my doctorate degree right now, and I was actually typing before I got on here. So when you say homework, I'm out. I don't even want to. No, I'm good. Thank you.
Oh, but you're so close.
Yes, yes.
Dr. Young, come on now, Dr. Young.
We're working on it. We're working on it.
Yes, yes. Listen, we gonna all have to do something when you done. Listen, Stan, Joe, Rachel, Jocelyn, Heidi, we gonna have to fly out, do something again. Hopefully this corona be over with, Lord.
Hey, this
Oh,
time
please.
next year it's gonna be
Oh,
over.
no. They gotta come to the ATL because
They got to come to
to go nowhere
yeah,
else. They got to come here.
Cold spot. Well, no, LaRhonda, you in Texas though, aren't you?
I'm in Fort Worth.
You in
Yeah.
Fort Worth. It's
That's-
warm there.
I'm not going back to Texas.
She said no.
Coming to the ATL. I tried clothes shopping in Texas. They didn't have no clothes unless I would have look like a pimp, a thug, or a cowboy. You come down here to the ATL, the bums be dressed out in the ATL.
Hey, when we get past COVID, that's one thing I do like to do is travel. So when we get past this COVID thing, we all got to get together and go do
Yes.
something.
Listen,
But we
'cause
got to take separate cars so they don't get all of us pulled over.
Right. You all, the only thing I want to say in my closing remarks, y'all know I love y'all. Thank you all for tuning in. I love some of us, we got some devoted people that's in there with us. We love y'all. Please stay safe. And remember, vote 2020 like your life depended on it. I understand some of y'all don't like different people, and I'm not going to tell you to vote for. That's not for me. You vote for the person that you feel like would have best fit your voice. You better hear what I'm telling you. You need to do the research. Don't listen to other people. You do the research on the things that's important to you, and then you vote accordingly. But you better vote. I'm telling you. Okay.
Well, I just want to say thank you guys again for coming on here. We are going to do a part 2. So be looking from an email. Because we got some other questions that we definitely want to address and get to. We got a lot of questions here. So I'm going to try and go through the comments and try to have those ready for you guys for the next time. But again, we appreciate you and keep up the good work. I'm be tuning in on next Saturday to y'all.
Yes. Oh, please.
It's called Behind the Blue Curtain. So if you guys want to tune into that show, you can look at Stan Mason's page. If you don't have a specific page for it, they have to go on your page to watch the show, right, Stan?
Yeah, I do on my personal page, and you don't have to be on the friends list. So don't say he's got 5,000. I don't hide. Just you can come see everything I got on there. You can see because I done blocked so many folks, you know. But they
and
knew
it's at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock?
11 o'clock Eastern, 10 Central.
Okay. All right. And then make sure everybody tune back in to Voices of Vision next Wednesday at 8 o'clock. We appreciate you guys for viewing. Turn it over to my hosts.
Ray, do you want to flip a coin?
I'll go. Because mine is short. I thank y'all so much for being on here and giving us a lot of insight. You know, we hear Nakia's insight, but we've heard y'all insight as well from y'all different departments. And I do support Black police, just not when I'm getting a ticket. People are being killed unnecessarily. That's my gripe, you know. So y'all have my support. So don't think I don't, you know, just when y'all cost me money, that's a problem. But other than that, just thank you so much. Thank you for everything that you have done, everything you guys continue to do in the future, and just thank you for educating people.
Yes.
And mine's actually going to be short, surprisingly. This has been so interesting for me. It's a different perspective, and if you all are available in like October, November, and feel like speaking to a class, I might have a couple. I think this would be such a great addition. Because it's my cultural diversity in the U.S. and we spend a portion of time talking about police. They read Nakia's book actually in my class. So just, you know, just drop that little bug in your ear.
I heard that nugget right. Y'all got some books coming out, let her know so she can make her class read them and buy them.
I sure do. The more that I can support authors who are out there actually trying to make differences, I'm not interested in, you know, this book has been published for thousands of years and we should keep it's not my style. So articles, soon to be Dr. Young, you know, if you're publishing keep me posted. But seriously, thank you. And I look forward to next week. I'm interested in talking about solutions, but also in order to get to the solutions, we got to understand the problems.
Absolutely.
And you're literally, I'm going to steal Stan's screen back there. You're literally showing us behind the blue curtain. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, everybody. Good night.
Good night. God bless.
Good night.
Good night.
Later.
African American and I'm a female. I'm here because I wanted to make a difference. But how dare you stand next to me in the same uniform and murder somebody? How dare you? You ought to be ashamed of yourself. So why don't we just keep it real? If you're that officer, then know good and well you got a God complex. You're afraid of people that don't look like you.